Okay, here we go again. Another installment of my Home Alone series. Just joking. It's not really a series. I just find myself alone in the house again, and I'm free to make videos about things I find important without quote unquote offending anyone. So I just want to apologize to begin with for my background, right? My background and for you know, the gear I use, like so the webcam I use. I know there's better gear out there, and there's better ways I could arrange my background when I make these videos so that it's more meaningful and attractive and all that stuff. But I cannot bring myself to clean out my room because it's just so small and there's so much stuff in it, and I need the stuff and I have no place to put it. So it's just I literally stand up in my room sometimes looking for stuff by just standing in one position and spinning around 360 because there's no place to walk. There's no place to, you know. But I have a possible solution to that, and I'm not gonna promise any great backgrounds and backdrops and any props or anything like that. But I will say I will make the attempt to at least clean out my room so it looks a little less cluttered when I do these videos. Um, so to the main topic of today's video, I want to talk about antinatalism being labeled genocide. So I've been on a number of groups and I've spoken to a number of people who continually call antinatalism genocide. Um, and I've spoken to one antinatalist who, I was looking for answers, right? So I was asking people on Facebook, what's going on? Like, why do people call antinatalism genocide? And this one Facebook person said, why bother? Why even care if they think it's genocide? Like, if somebody's that far down that road, they're not going to be convinced by any argument anyway if they think it's genocide. And they're probably not, they're not worth the effort, right? But I think I think it's worth the effort to make antinatalism into a respectable idea, um, and at least an idea that can be entertained, at least an idea that can provoke some amount of imagination or rethinking about our place on the planet Earth. I think everybody's doing that these days. I think in the face of climate change and the coronavirus, I think everyone's rethinking our place on the planet Earth. And I think ideas that make you do that make us better equipped and more imaginative and more inventive in terms of thinking about how we live on Earth. Climate change is kind of like the big one lurking in the background, and antinatalism isn't strictly tied to climate change. And I think there's even some sort of error that people make when it comes to antinatalism being equated to climate change. I think there's an online dictionary that makes a real strong connection between antinatalism and climate change, when really the definition of antinatalism is far beyond climate change. Um, but I do believe antinatalism should be an idea that invokes and provokes thought on our place on the planet Earth. And in saying that, I think we should move away from, discounting or ignoring people who would say that antinatalism is genocide. And I'll tell you why, in my own humble and basic way, why I think that antinatalism is not genocide. Number one, it's not genocide because you're dealing with consent. People have to understand the arguments of antinatalism. They have to go through it. They have to put thought into it. They have to debate about it, and they have to come to a conclusion that is in alignment with antinatalism on their own. They have to you have to have consent, and that is not genocide. No culture or group has ever consented to their genocide. It's kind of an oxymoron to say that, right? Um, and also in genocide, you don't in genocide you're killing people. You're actually like, killing people, right? With antinatalism, you're not killing anyone. You're just not giving birth to anyone. You're not conceiving anyone. You're not producing a life, and that is not killing anyone. That it's not killing anyone. Um, the other day, Les Unite, I was listening to a podcast with him. He's the leader of the voluntary human extinction movement, and people kind of get behind in a strange way. I can't remember where this idea entered my head, but I'll tell you anyway. It entered my mind that people seem to be very upset with human extinction. Like, um, And they seem to be more upset with that than the part about not giving birth. Um, I know I'm kind of, I'm out on a limb on that one here, but they're more with antinatalism or with the voluntary human extinction movement. They're much more concerned about not about the extinction of humankind than with not giving birth. And I feel that's the crux of the argument. I think people envision this kind of like with human extinction, voluntary human extinction, not necessarily the movement, but like with antinatalism as a byproduct of antinatalism, there will be human extinction. They imagine some sort of like dystopian apocalyptic future where there's people wandering the streets mad out of their minds and things like that. But it won't be the apocalyptic, dystopian vision that people get when they think about antinatalism and not producing more human beings. We have technologies like AI. We have experience, over the past, a few hundred years of technology and systems and policy and the way things can be, shifted to adjust for human behavior. So the other day, Yuval Noah Harari, for instance, put out this post about, on Facebook saying that, if just 2% of the world's GDP were dedicated to climate change, we would solve the issue. Like almost, not immediately, but like, very easily, right? Just 2% of world GDP. And I thought, that's just a perfect example of how minor shifts in our policies can affect huge change. So if antinatalism were somehow, miraculously like agreed upon by the entire population of the earth, there's ways and policies and systems we could change to make sure that civilization ends after human existence. So that we're not trapped in the wild. We're not trapped like wild dogs looking for meat. You know what I mean? Um, so it's not genocide in the sense that no one's gonna, we're not gonna seek out like the most awful way to go extinct. We will seek out the most pleasurable, if I may use that the dirty word pleasure, the most pleasurable way to wind the human race down. So it's not genocide, and everybody has to consent, right? Everybody has to consent that we've thought about it and this is the way to go. And it's not about creating laws and policy that create a kind of black market for kids, right? Like I mean, that makes things even worse. That's more suffering, and that's not the intention of antinatalism, to create more suffering. We're looking we're looking for ways of basically having this consented to. And while there might still be people producing kids in maybe in one group or one country or pockets or individuals here and there producing kids, at least there's government protection for them if it's not made like a ban on birth, right? Like I mean, there's laws that would protect those children. So I don't think it's genocide. It's been a kind of rambly video, but I don't think it's genocide for those I don't think it's genocide for those reasons. And yeah, like I don't really have much else to tell you. Um, so yeah, go and prosper and be merry. Okay, bye.